What's up, everybody? I hope you're having a great day. It is almost Halloween time, and we here at SmoothBrainEDH had a little costume recording party. In fact, I'm going to cut it over to them now.
Welcome back to the episode of SmoothBrainEDH and the Smooth Plays with the Biggest Brains. We got some nerds that dressed up for Halloween this year. So let's go through this. We got, first off, that's going to be Chandler. He's playing the new Ghalta.
Ghalta, Stampede Tyrant, Big Green Oompa Boomba.
Big Green.
Kill.
Beautiful. Next, we got Cody on the Cyber Controller. I think that's what it says. What does it do?
I mill things and do a mean robot dance.
Sexy. We got Cameron on Jadar. The
Blue Collar of Nephalia.
Sick.
Spooky, scary sacrifice.
Seth's so cool. Seth, Mr. Banana Man, what you got?
I got Kibo, Tubby Prince. We're going to be making bananas, big dudes, and destroying artifacts.
Sick. Peanut butter jelly time.
Alright, we're about to hop right into it, but before we do, I'd like to urge you guys to go check out our links down in the description. We've got our Patreon down there if you want to support us, thank you guys, and our other channel that has our podcasts on it. We're also sponsored by Dragon Shield, so if you want to pick up any sleeves or playmats to protect your purchases, go check out our affiliate link. Now, on to the gameplay. Looks like Cody wins the die roll and he starts off with Verdant Catacombs. He'll fetch for a tapped Watery Grave and pass while searching. Cameron will play a Swamp, cast Soul Ring, and then cast Charcoal Diamond, and then pass to Seth. Seth plays tapped Stomping Ground and passes to Chandler, who plays tapped Garen Brig and then passes to Cody. Cody will play an Island and then tap for 2 and cast Arcane Signet, and then the turn is passed. Cameron will then cast Jadar, and then he'll move to end step and make a Decayed Zombie. The turn is then passed to Seth, and he'll start off with a basic Mountain, then he'll tap for 2 and cast Lightning Greaves. Then he passes to Chandler. Chandler will just play a Forest, and then cast Sakura Triabelder, and then pass back to Cody. Cody plays a Swamp, and then he'll cast Rings of Bright Hearth, and then pass to Cameron. Cameron starts off by tapping for 3 and casting Tainted Adversary, so he's got 1 floating. Then with that 1 floating, he'll tap for another black and cast Plumb the Forbidden, sacrificing the Decayed Zombie and the Adversary to draw 3 and lose 3. Cameron will then play a Mortuary Mire as land for turn, and he puts the Adversary back on the top of his library. Then he'll move to combat and hit Cody for 1 commander, and then he passes the turn to Seth. He gets his Decayed Zombie, and then on Seth's turn, he plays a Reliquary Tower. Then he'll tap for 3 and cast Kibo, and then he'll equip him with Lightning Greaves. Seth then passes the turn, but Chandler stops on end step to sacrifice Sack Daddy and find a basic force to the battlefield. And while Chandler's searching, Seth decides he'll stay on end step as well and activate Kibo to give everybody a banana token. Now on Chandler's turn, he'll play a War Room as land for turn and then cast a Beast Whisperer. Then he'll sacrifice the banana to float a green and gain 2 life, which triggers Kibo, and then he'll cast a Birds of Paradise, which draws himself a card. Now on Cody's turn, he'll play a Drowned Catacombs as land for turn. Then he'll tap out for 5 mana and sacrifice the banana for a 6th, which triggers Kibo, and then he'll cast the Cyber Controller X's 3. So each opponent mills 3 cards, and all creatures go onto the battlefield under Cody's control as 2/2 Cybermen. This hits 2 lands and a shared summons from Chandler, the Tainted Adversary, Grey Merchant of Asphodel, and Fleshbag Marauder from Cameron, and then 2 lands and Rishkar's expertise from Seth. The turn is then passed to Cameron, and he starts off with a basic Swamp. He'll then cast a Pitiless Plunderer, then with the help of Seth's banana, he'll cast Plague Crafter, which causes everybody to sacrifice a creature. Cameron sacrifices his Decayed Zombie, Cody a Cyberman, Seth Kibo, and Chandler his birds, and Cameron will get a treasure off Pitiless Plunderer, which he immediately uses to cast a Carrion Feeder. The turn is then passed to Seth, and he'll start off by casting a 3 Visits. This will find him a Forest to the battlefield, then he'll tap for 3 and cast Rhythm of the Wild. The turn is then passed to Chandler, and he starts off with a Wooded Foothills. Then he'll cast an Eternal Witness, which draws him a card off cast. Then when it ETBs, he'll get Sack Daddy back to his hand. After this, he'll fetch with his Wooded Foothills to find a Forest to the battlefield, and he'll cast the Sack Daddy, drawing another card. Then he passes the turn to Cody, who starts off with a basic Swamp as land for turn, and then he'll cast Tezzeret, Master of the Bridge, which will immediately uptick and dome all opponents for 5, and Cody will gain 5. The turn is then passed to Cameron, who starts off with a Midnight Reaper. Then he'll tap for 2 and cast Bloodghast, and it is immediately sacrificed to the Carrion Feeder. This will get the Feeder a counter, then he'll draw a card and lose a life, and then make a treasure token. He then plays a Swamp as land for a turn, and the Bloodcast hits the battlefield again. Oh, and it is immediately sacrificed to Carrion Feeder again. So another counter, another card, and another treasure. Cameron will then cast a Heraldic Banner, naming black. Then after this, he sacrifices his Plague Crafter for a counter, a card, and a treasure. Then he'll cast a Warlock class. Then he'll sacrifice his Decayed Zombie for another treasure and a counter. And then he'll level up Warlock class. He'll look at the top 3 cards of his library, put 1 into his hand, and the rest in his graveyard. After this, Cameron will move to combat and hit Seth for 6. And then he passes the turn to Seth. On end step, everyone loses a life to Warlock class as well. Now on Seth's turn, he'll start off with the Ozolith, the Shattered Spire. Then he'll cast Zodiac Monkey, which has Riot, and he'll have it enter with a counter, and the Ozolith makes it 2 counters. He'll then equip the Lightning Greaves to it, and then he'll pass the turn to Chandler, who stops on end step to do Sack Daddy stuff again. Then on his turn, he plays Basic Forest as land for turn. And with 7 lands on the field, and one of them being Castle Garenbrig, he's able to cast Ghalta, Stampede Tyrant. Beast Whisperer draws him a card, and then Ghalta resolves. ETB trigger, and Chandler only has 2 creatures, but one is a Bane of Progress, which is very good here. The other is a Topiary Stomper. And they're both just put on the battlefield. So Chandler tutors a forest to the battlefield tapped, and then all artifacts and enchantments will be destroyed. Cameron responds to the trigger though by sacrificing his treasure, so the Bane will get 12 counters instead of 13. After this, Chandler moves to combat, and he hits Tezzeret for 4, and then he'll pass the turn to Cody, who starts off with a basic island. Then he'll cast Soul Guide Lantern, exiling Bloodghast on ETB, then an Altar of Dementia. Then he upticks Tezzeret, dealing 2 to all of his opponents and gaining 2. Then the turn is passed to Cameron, and he'll start off by Village Rightsing away his Decayed Zombie. This will draw him 2 cards and get him a treasure token. Then he'll cast Cult Conscript, and it is immediately sacrificed away for a counter and a treasure. Cameron then moves to combat, and he sends his Carrion Feeder at the active Planeswalker and kills it. And he also sends 3 at Ethan, and then he'll pass the turn to Seth. He gets his Decayed Zombie, and then on Seth's turn, he starts off with Garruk's Uprising, and he'll draw a card on ETB. Unfortunately though, he misses another land drop and passes the turn to Chandler. Chandler will start off with a basic forest and then tap for 8 and cast Last March of the Ents. And Cody, who had a counter spell in hand, can't do anything about this because the spell can't be countered. So Chandler will draw 14 cards and then put in Defiler of Vigor, Scavenging Ooze, Llanowar Elves, and Craterhoof Behemoth. And when it hits the battlefield, all these creatures get +9/+9 in trample. So then, Chandler will move to combat. He'll swing 22 at Seth, then 44 at Cameron, 21 of which is Commander, and then 27 damage will be pointed at Cody. Before damage, Cameron will attempt to find a way out of this, and he'll sacrifice 3 creatures and draw 3 cards and lose 3 life. But unfortunately for him, there's nothing he can do, and there's no blocks around the table. So everyone takes their damage, and Cameron is dead. Chandler will then pass the turn, and he's got a few cards to discard.
Alright, discarding Tribute to the World Tree, Forest, Soul Ring, Forest, Emerald Medallion, Defense of the Heart, Forest.
And then Cody decides he also wants to sacrifice his Soul Guide Lantern to draw a card on end step. He'll then play a Sunken Ruin as land for turn on his turn. Then he casts Urza, Lord High Artificer, and he'll immediately pay 5 to activate Urza's ability. A panic button, if you will. And this will flip into Illusionist Stratagem. Cody will cast it, but he decides to only target Urza, so this will make him another construct. The turn is then passed to Seth, and he doesn't draw anything useful, and he asks Cody if there's anything he can do, but Cody's tapped out. So they both decide to pack it up, making Chandler the winner. Alright, I'll be the first person to admit that game was way too short. So we got a surprise. It's something we don't do very often, but we got a second game for you all. I'm going to start showing up all the hands for you guys now. Go ahead and pause and read them if you want to. But yeah, here comes the second game in the spirit of Halloween. But before that, a word from our sponsor. What is up everybody? Chandler from SmoothBrainEDH here. And I have got an awesome supply drop from our sponsor, Inked Gaming, right here in front of me. What is it? Well, it's a reoccurring box of supplies providing cards, mats, sleeves, and even more. This month's box features the incredible art from David Lozo. His Day of the Dead artwork is perfect for the upcoming Dia de Muertos and even Halloween. So let's hop right into this box and see what they got us. I'm going to go straight for this playmat first because that's what I like buying from Ink the most, their playmats. And look at this thing, it is absolutely immaculate. Next in the box is a box of Dragon Shield sleeves. Gotta protect your purchases. Then we've got a Gamegenic token silo, which is perfect for organizing your dice and tokens. I've been needing something like this. There's also a ton of art cards and stickers, and even 2 packs of Wilds of Eldraine. If you're interested in picking up any of these, use our affiliate link to go to Inked Gaming right now to check out their supply drop. The link will be in the description, so go and take a look. And use the code on screen to get 10% off your first box. Go and get one. Alright, it's time for game 2. Cody wins the die roll again and plays Sunken Hollow, then passes. Cameron plays Swamp and says pass. Seth plays Path of Ancestry and says pass. And Chandler will play Myriad Landscape and say pass. Cody plays a Swamp and casts the first spell of the game, a Felwar Stone. Then he'll pass and Cameron plays his own Swamp, then casts Jadar and passes. Seth starts off with a Mountain as land for turn, and he'll cast a Soul Ring. And now that he has 3 mana, he'll cast Kibo, Path of Ancestry trigger. And the Scry will stay on top. Then the turn is passed to Chandler. Chandler plays a Forest, and then he'll cast Sakura Tribelder. Then he passes to Cody, who plays and fetches with a Marsh Flats. This finds an untapped Watery Grave, and he'll cast Commander's Sphere, and then pass the turn to Cameron. Cameron plays a Takenuma as land for turn, then he'll cast Idol of Oblivion. After this he moves to combat, he swings his 2/2 Decayed Zombie at Seth, and then 1 Commander at Cody. The Decayed Zombie dies at the end of combat, and then on instep, Cameron will make another one, and then he'll activate Idol of Oblivion still on instep to draw a card. The turn is then passed to Seth, and he'll play Skarg, the Rage Pits, as land for turn. Then he'll cast Curd Ape, and then Uktabi Orangutan, and he'll blow up Idol of Oblivion with its ETB trigger. This triggers Kibo, and all his dudes get counters. He'll then activate Kibo, and everyone gets a banana token. Then after this he casts Liquimetal Torque, and one of the manas from the banana, so 2 life is gained. He'll then pass the turn to Chandler, who does Sakura Tribe Elder stuff on instep, and then on his turn he'll cast Tireless Tracker, and play a basic Force as land for turn, and he'll get a clue token. The turn is then passed to Cody, he starts off with a Misty Rainforest, and he immediately fetches with it. And he finds an island to the battlefield with it. He'll then tap for 5 and cast a Peregrine Drake, untapping all of his land, and then he'll just pass the turn to Cameron. Cameron starts off by casting Erebos the Bleak-Hearted, and he does use the banana, so Kibo trigger. And then Cameron will move to combat, and he hits Chandler with his 2/2 Decayed Zombie, and Chandler just takes it, and then it dies at the end of combat. When it dies, he'll pay 2 life and draw a card from Erebos, and then he Bajuka Bogs Chandler. Then he'll pass the turn and get another 2/2 on instep. Now on Seth's turn, bananas for everyone. And then after this, he'll cast Rishkar's Expertise. This draws him 4 cards, and then he'll cast a Coat of Arms for free. He'll then play a Mountainous Land for turn, and then Chandler offers him a little deal. If Seth will full swing at Cameron this turn, he'll use both his bananas to crack his clue token, which will get Seth 3 Kibo triggers, and Seth agrees. So Seth moves to combat, and he turns Uktabi Orangutan and the Curd Ape at Cameron. And before damage, Chandler will sacrifice both of his bananas to crack his clue token, giving all Seth's creatures 3 more counters. And hey, Chandler's Tireless Tracker also gets a counter. Damage will then go through, and Cameron takes 18 damage. The turn is then passed to Chandler, and he starts off with Mosswort Bridge, which gets him another clue token. He hides away a card, and then he'll cast Defense of the Heart. He'll then pass the turn to Cody, who starts off with another basic island. Then he'll tap out with his lands, floating 5 mana, and he'll cast Displace, leaving 2 blue and 1 black mana open. This blinks his Peregrine Drake, which, when it comes back, he'll untap all 5 of his lands. Then he'll float all the mana he has available, including his 2 bananas, Kibo triggers, and cast the Cyber Controller X is equal to 8.
Phyrexian Tower, Ophiomancer, Reassembling Skeleton, Swamp, Deadly Dispute, Swamp, one more, Morbid Opportunist.
Pain Distributor, Gruul Turf, Mycosynth Lattice, Rhythm of the Wild, Chaos Warp, Ferocious Tigerilla, Raging Gorilla, and Summon Apes.
Sylvan Library, Nykthos, Rampant Growth, Tribute to the World Tree, Defiler of Vigor, Eternal Witness, Bane of Progress, Force.
And this will get Cody 10 2/2 Cybermen, and thanks to the Cyber Controller, there are 3/3s. The turn is then passed to Cameron, and he starts off with a Swamp, and then he'll cast Bantu's Monument. He'll then move to combat and bonk Seth for 2 with his Decayed Zombie. It dies at the end of combat, and Cameron will pay the 2 to Erebos to draw a card. Then he casts a Blood Artist, and this triggers Bantu's Monument. After this, Cameron will cast a Fleshbag Marauder. He did use the banana, so Kibo will trigger and he'll gain 2, and then everybody sacrifices a creature. Blood Artist will trigger 4 times, and they're all pointed at Cody. The turn is then passed to Seth, Cameron gets a 2/2 zombie, and then Seth will cast a Hardened Scales. After this, he activates his Liquimetal Torque to make Blood Artist an artifact until end of turn, and then he overloads a Vandal Blast. Cody will respond to it by sacrificing his Commander Sphere to draw a card. This triggers Kibo, which gets him 2 counters now. Then the Vandal Blast resolves, destroying 15 artifacts. And those 15 Kibo triggers put 2 counters on each of his creatures, meaning his 2 monkeys get 30 counters on them. And there's also 12 Blood Artist triggers, which all target Seth. Seth will then move to combat, and Cody and Chandler realize they are just dead on board here. And there is literally a 10-minute discussion of Chandler and Cody begging for their lives, while Cameron goes, "Wouldn't it be cool to kill 2 players instead of just me?" It's definitely a tough call, and he thinks about it for a little while. Eventually, Seth does come to a decision, and he turns his 2 monkeys sideways at Cody and Chandler. Both of these monkeys are 42 power, so no matter how he spreads it, they're both dead. And then the turn is passed to Cameron after combat. He starts off by casting Vran. Then he'll cast Reanimate on his Fleshbag Marauder, and he and Seth both have to sacrifice a creature. And when Cameron does, he'll pay 2 life to Erebos and get the Vran trigger. Cameron will then cast a Felwar Stone, and then a Wayfarer's Bauble, and then he passes the turn to Seth, hoping he can't find Trample. Unfortunately for Cameron though, Seth has double Trample. He's got Skarg the Rage Pit, and a Kodama of the West Tree. And unfortunately for Cameron, Kibo is hella modified. So Seth will move to combat and turn Kibo sideways at Cameron. And while Cameron does have enough butts to keep himself alive from regular damage, the commander damage is what does him in. So, Seth wins Game 2 of the Halloween special. Well, everyone. Thank you so much for watching, first of all, and I really hope you enjoyed those spooky games and our funny little costumes. If you did enjoy, let me know down below. I love reading you guys' comments. And while you're down there, don't forget to check out all of our links in the description, especially our affiliate link with Inked Gaming. Go get one of those supply crates, they're actually really cool. But that's all I have for you today, guys. I'll see you guys in next week's video, and I hope you all have a great Halloween and a smooth day.